What is going on, Falcons world? What is going on? I'm your boy Berto, your host of the 95 North Falcons Talk Show, joined by my guy Bro Talk, and we're gonna try and deliver the best show we possibly can on this Sunday night. It's a pop-up show, 7:30 special. We figured, hey man, let's get on. Let's talk a little bit about these Falcons, man, because I think a lot of the people in Falcons world are forgetting how successful of an offseason it was for these Atlanta Falcons. And we'll go into that. But first, Bro Talk, man, please introduce yourself to the world. Let everybody know what's going on out there, man.
What's up, 95 North Falcons fans? I'm now a part of it. Berto was so gracious enough to invite me and to be a part of it. And, I want to say I jumped to it, which I would have, but of course, had to get the blessing of the missus. And thankfully, she gave the blessing. And I'm a huge Falcons fan. If you guys don't already see me on Twitter, on TikTok, I talk highly of them. I'm one of the most optimistic guys you'll talk to when it comes to Falcons, but also realistic. I'm not one of the sour guys you'll see online, unless we go down that path, and then you'll get a little sour out of me. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk Falcons.
Hey, man, we love to have you. We're happy to have you for sure, man. Of course, Smitty and Chris round out the rest of the crew. They're busy tonight, but definitely, man, we're glad to have you on. Speaking of Chris, going into the chat, shout out April Thomas, Jared Talks, Chris Tipmore at A1 Forever. One thing about us, we're gonna have a pop-up. We're gonna have a lot of pop-up shows, he says. Absolutely, man. But as the title states, man, let's recap a little bit about this 2024 offseason for these Atlanta Falcons. And this comes on the heels of just 7 Bijan Robinson days away from the start of the 2024 year. I'm sure, like you, I'm uber excited. I can't wait to see this product on the field, with all these acquisitions, the draft picks and whatnot, just going into it and really, just hitting the ground running. But recap. As we all know, this Falcons season didn't end the way that a lot of us envisioned back in 2023, 2024. January 8th was a dark day. R.D. Smith was shown the door in the wee hours. Fast forward to January 25th, where we rehired a very rejuvenated Raheem Morris after so many candidates were coming through Flowery Branch, the Bill Belichick's, the Mike McDonald's, the Harbaughs, the Ben Johnsons, the hot commodity Ben Johnson. Everybody was after him, the Lions offensive coordinator. But the Falcons circled back to a familiar face who was within Flowery Branch just a few years ago in 2021 in the name of Raheem Morris. Glad that we have him back, and I feel like the best of Raheem Morris is yet to come. I feel like his time away from being an actual head coach, although he served here as an interim, really didn't have a lot of say until it was just his time for the ending of the 2021 campaign. But now is an opportunity for him to relish in this opportunity. What do you see from Coach Raheem, or what do you feel like in this second time go around with the Falcons? What's Coach Raheem? What's one thing that he can bring to the table now versus when he was back with us in 2021?
The biggest thing is his experiences that he's learned on his way to becoming the Falcons head coach. Being a 32-year-old first-time head coach, you had guys older than you on your roster, and you expect them to listen, buy into what you have to say. And it was a rough going. Raheem was like all of us, expecting that we can do the job. We're anxious. We get the opportunity. Yeah, we can do it. And it takes a lot for a person to step back and reflect. What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? And as his path has progressed, being offensive, defensive coaching, he's so well-rounded and learning from people like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell. The tree branches so far. And then where we see a lot of coordinators fail, where they don't see the big picture of the football team, they're just solely or mainly focused on that one side of the ball that they're comfortable with. I feel like Raheem can take that step back because he's got two guys that he's really confident in to be able to handle both sides of the ball and special teams with a returning coach in Marquise Williams, and also the staff he's built around it. He can actually focus on his players, the development, where are we struggling, what do we need to do, and then that partnership with Terry. So actually being a head coach, and I think that's where Arthur Smith failed, where he didn't understand how to be a head coach. He was just so focused on the offensive side of the ball. As bad as it was, that's where he was comfortable with. That's where he was trying to perfect. We saw it 3 years in a row with the draft picks. But now we have a coach. And I'll be the first to say I was surprised when we hired Raheem. He was not at the top of my list. The top of my list was Ben Johnson, with like a lot of people. But after seeing everything that's transpired, seeing how he interacts, the energy, what he has done, and as far as staff and player and personnel, people want to come to Atlanta because of Raheem. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The same could be said for Ben Johnson, maybe, but I just don't know that for a fact. So, in the end, a lot of people are still skeptical, right? They bring up his past in
Yeah.
Tampa, they bring up
Mm-hmm.
Durham coaching stuff. It's all a learning process. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
You People don't like to compare it to real life, but if you think about it, you make so many mistakes in your youth to get to where you are, and that's when people are like, "Oh my gosh, how did you get to where you were?" Well, I had to make those mistakes and learn on the way. And I think Raheem is at that point, and I think he's of the mindset as, I don't know everything, and I'm going to continue to learn.
That's a beautiful way to put it, man. Yeah. So going through the chat again, Jared Talks and J Black 142. Thank you for joining the stream this evening, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Yeah, man. And like it goes back to what I was saying, man. It just I feel like this is the best version of Raheem that we're gonna experience as a fan base and as for a team. You have several other guys, big name guys, Jalen Ramsey for one, who vouch for a guy like Raheem. Who doesn't want to come and play for Raheem? And some can argue that Raheem being the head coach, he could have probably pulled the guys like Matt Judon and Justin Simmons, who we'll touch on later on, as free agency, which we're gonna springboard into right now. Free agency, a lot of people, devalued it somewhat for these Atlanta Falcons, and sure, mainly because we threw a bag at Kirk Cousins, 4 years, $180 million, signed Darnell Mooney, signed Charlie Warner, and they weren't the splashy moves a lot of people were figuring to have made. We should have been in some of these higher profile guys, the sweepstakes on certain guys, mainly for the defense. But Coach Raheem Morris from day one, and I go back to the combine situation where he was at the podium saying, I'm not on this podium if I didn't address the quarterback position or didn't have to. So that was his clear vision from day one, was unveiling the plan for these Falcons at that quarterback position. As we all know, the quarterback position has been trash in Atlanta since Matt Ryan left, right? Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota. Sure, we needed a gunslinger, an elite processor, his words, to come and navigate through this offense. We bring in Zach Robinson, as you had mentioned too, the Kevin O'Connell situation. Zach Robinson, Kevin O'Connell worked some time together in with Los Angeles, and now Kevin O'Connell, of course, got hired to become the Vikings head coach, and now Zach is here in Atlanta in the offensive coordinator capacity. The language is the same. So it seems to us that, picking up Kirk Cousins or targeting Kirk Cousins was always the number one thing, right? We have such a talented offensive roster. Bijan, Kyle, Drake, Tyler Algier, but we just never had that, competent quarterback play, under center to navigate. Bring in Kirk Cousins. Of course, that comes with a heavy bag, as I mentioned, the $100 million, $80 contract situation. But it's what Kirk Cousins has done in the league. He has been one of the most successful quarterbacks the last 5 years. Now we can take away 2023. It was short stint for him. Of course, he went down with that Achilles injury. But since 2019, this guy has amassed for almost 20,000 yards passed with well over 140 plus touchdowns, a 101.3 quarterback rating. This is a successful guy, supplanting some of the guys that we know and love in this league. Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, you name it, Joe Burrows, Justin Herberts, and things like that. Kirk Cousins was the right fit for this Falcons team. And it was that in the beginning phase of free agency when the Falcons announced they were bringing in Kirk Cousins. Your thoughts, right quick, on what Kirk Cousins is going to bring to this Falcons team in terms of value.
Yeah. So to your point, Kirk was the right guy, and like they said, the guy they were targeting from the get go because of the background in the offense, a Sean McVay offense, a Kyle Shanahan offense. It's complex. So to bring in another guy that's not familiar with the system, the lingo, the checks, the protection calls, whatever, it just
Mhm.
it's going to set you back again. And like you pointed out, Raheem made the comment about the quarterback. Josh Freeman in Tampa,
Mm.
he did have Matt Ryan, but the roster was just atrocious around him,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then he was look from the outside looking in at what Arthur Smith was doing, and he told himself, "We're not doing that." And to bring in Kirk Cousins to make that transition easy, Kirk. If you haven't seen the quarterbacks documentary, I highly recommend it to give you a
Yes.
background on Kirk. The
Mhm.
dude loves the game so much, and his preparation and his not just physically but mentally, he wants to be the best version of himself. Of course, it comes with backlash, right? The amount of money we threw,
Yeah.
right? But
Mhm.
if you want, like you said, statistically, a quarterback that's going to get the job done, you got to throw the bag. You want
Got
to
to.
win. We want to win
Mhm.
now. We don't want a year or two of development. Hence why Michael Penix was drafted at the pick that he was. He has to learn the offense, and that
Mhm.
takes time. Everyone wants to turn the other way and forget that Patrick Mahomes sat an entire year learning Andy Reid's offense,
Right.
right? I'm not saying it's going to be 1 year for Penix. It's at least going to be two. We're all under that unless something freak happens. But
Mhm.
everyone needs to just calm down. Kirk is a winning quarterback. He
Yeah.
does his job. The quarterback position is the most scrutinized, right? Because they're at the head of the
Mhm.
table. Nobody scrutinizes the wide receiver if they don't get the yards. Nobody scrutinizes the running back if they miss the cut. They only scrutinize the quarterback because he is the head of the team. And right, you like that. We're going to hear a lot of that. He hits it. And the iconic, you like that in the Aints locker room when he beat them in the playoffs in 2021. They like
Yeah.
to they like to forget that, those guys in the black and gold. He's like
Yeah.
that. He can perform and he does his job well. That's why anytime anyone brings up playoff success, quarterback wins, I throw it out the window. You know what? Let's not
Yeah.
talk anymore.
Yeah. No, I get you, man. So we go from you like that to a night where a lot of people didn't like that, and which was the draft night. As bro talk, you was a part of it that night with myself, Smitty, Rakondo, and many others. And shock heard around the world, so to say, right? We were sitting there at 8, and the anticipation was we're going to draft a defensive player. We had everybody there for the take, and Lateo Latu, Jared Verse, Dallas Turner. Oh my God, the list goes on. And Michael Penix was the pick for these Atlanta Falcons. Sure, everybody in Atlanta, their reception to it wasn't as great, but once everything settled, it made complete sense as to why Raheem made the choice, or Raheem and Terry made the choice of Michael Penix. Succession plan was one of the big things that Raheem echoed throughout the hallways of Flowery Branch. He brought that to the table in 2021 when he interviewed for the Falcons at the end of the year to become the head coach. What is your succession plan? To the team acknowledge that they didn't have one, and hence the reason why the Falcons, had shitty quarterback play for the next 2 years, right? We were so spoiled as fans, as a fan base, as an organization from having Mr. Consistency and Matt Ryan holding it down for 13, 14 years for this Falcons. We never really drafted, or we ignored the fact that this guy one day will start to decline. So Raheem saw that as opportunity. Well, we're not going to do that this year. We're going to get our guy. And oh, by the way, we're going to draft for the future as well. We're not trying to stir up or bring up any quarterback controversies because there isn't going to be one unless, something freak happens, like you mentioned, where Kirk's play doesn't match up and they decide to do something next year. But that's next year. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about the now. And right now, what it is Kirk Cousins under the helm with a strong Michael Penix backing him up and learning the nuances of what it takes to be a quarterback, or to be quarterback ready in this NFL world. So I'm excited for what Raheem was able to do, and Terry Fontenot in unveiling this plan. I know, like I mentioned, didn't sit right with a lot of people. I hope by now it has calmed, because it's a damn plan that was needed here in Atlanta for sure. So many years that we've ignored it. It is what it is. We go on to have a pretty good draft class. Unfortunately, we lose Braylon Trice this past preseason in the first game against the Miami Dolphins, but we go back to back in that sense with Rick Orho and Brandon Dorless. Oh, by the way, JD Captain America Bertan comes onto the team as well. So a solid core of guys on the defensive side, no longer being called by Ryan Nielsen, now being called by first-year defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake. So your thoughts, right quick, on Jimmy Lake, and what he can, what can he get out of these guys now with the Falcons?
So the good thing with Jimmy Lake is I feel like being a first time defensive coordinator, Raheem has done an excellent job setting him up for success because he has such a strong defensive staff behind him that kind of
Mhm.
echo the message that he's trying to portray for the defense, which is a trickle down effect, right? This is let's be real. This is essentially Raheem's defense that now Jimmy is going to have that power to make the calls, call the
Mhm.
fronts, call the coverages, blitzes, whatever, what have you. So that's kind of what I'm going to be keying in. How does he handle those situations, those third and shorts and crucial moments where the defense needs to come up with the stop? Early in the game, are they able to bend but not break, holding teams
Mhm.
that catch fire, that get into that red zone, but are able to hold them to a field goal or a turnover? Turnovers is a big thing for me because we've lacked
Yeah,
in that department for quite some time. So I know
definitely.
Raheem's been drilling it in it, and I know Jimmy is echoing it, but that's the cool thing is it's Jimmy's baby to grow, and Raheem's
Mhm.
just kind of overseeing the thing. So was I hesitant when he was the defensive coordinator brought in? Of course. That's just
Mhm.
human nature. It's a
Mhm.
first time defensive coordinator. But then when you look at his history in college, he
Yep.
he has a little bit of a repertoire and he's worked with NFL caliber players at the collegiate level and helped develop them get to those first, second, third round picks. So
Mhm.
I think he's set up for success. He has we signed him some pretty darn good players on the defensive side that'll make his job
100%.
easier. So
Yep.
we'll see. I'm eager to see, especially week one. We know what's coming. It's the guy that used to call the plays here. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm eager to see how he counteracts that.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, we go from Ryan Nielsen, of course, to Jimmy Lake, first-time coordinator, and Jimmy Lake has been gifted some tremendous assets to play, or to coach in this defense as his first time as a coordinator. Probably wouldn't have been the same, had we not signed these guys. I think it would have been more of a struggle trying to piece together, all right, how do we replace a Braylon Trice? How do we replace a DeMarco Hellum for the short term? As we all know, DeMarco Hellum was placed on the IR with it, but a designated to return. Braylon Trice, unfortunately, we lose for the year. But in two corresponding moves, the Atlanta Falcons were able to trade for Matt Judon, and in back-to-back days, and then sign Justin Simmons to contracts here in Atlanta, really bolstering this Atlanta Falcons defense overall. Now you look at the defense up and down, it's a great blend of youth and vet. With the vets, of course, David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, Justin Simmons, Matt Judon, to go with the rookie upstarts, or those second and third year guys like Troy Anderson and Nate Landman, Clark Phillips, Zach Harrison, Taquan Graham on the defensive line. So it's a good little blend right there that these guys can, kind of lean their shoulder on these vets, if in case they need help in some way, shape, or form. I know it's going to be a new defense. It's going to be something that's probably what we're accustomed to seeing in Los Angeles, that bend but don't break style defense. But with those names added, bro, you got to wonder what's the ceiling for this Falcons defense. Now let's remind folks, the Falcons finished last year top, what, 11th ranked, I'm sorry, in total defense, and that was with a mixed bag of guys that belonged on NFL rosters and some that didn't. LaKale London was on this squad, paired in the middle with Taquan and Cram, if y'all forgot that. Zach Harrison was a mainstay. On the other side, Zoe Carter was still here. But there aren't the pieces that we have now. So, what do you see in terms of success for this Falcons defense in year one for Jimmy Lake?
So I think we're still going to be at top 15. I think top 10 would be stretching it because of the philosophy of a bend, don't break. That Vic Fangio style defense that kind of each player has their keys. You're going to give up yards, and but they clamp down when it matters most. What I'm excited about is not only having Justin Simmons, and you and I talked about this, Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, they can switch.
Oh,
Someone's
yeah.
playing strong safety, someone's playing free safety. It doesn't really matter because they both can play both. But the emergence, something I noticed in the Rams defense was Jalen Ramsey, when he was there for Raheem, he's an outside corner. He's one of the ball hawking corners. When they were in their dime front, he wasn't playing outside.
Nope.
He was inside, sometimes on the line in a penny front. So you could see that from Justin Simmons or Richie Grant. So when you have those three safety looks, the possibilities are endless. And everyone talked about pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. Of course, we very rarely have those dominant pass rushers. Well, now we have one. Matthew Judon brings the leadership, shows these youngsters, Arnold Ebiketie, Zach Harrison, who now I don't really think he's going to have his hand off the ground. He's going to go from a 3 to 5 technique. Either way, he's going to improve in his pass rush.
Yep.
He brings double-digit sacks. The two top sack leaders, everyone likes to bring out. We lost them. Arnold Ebiketie was only half a sack under them. And that's with whiffing on a couple sacks. You get another year under your belt. You get Matthew Judon that teaches you some moves, some tendencies of offensive linemen. The sky's the limit. I'm expecting 10 sacks at least from an Arnold Ebiketie. And then you get maybe 15 from Judon. Bro, that just makes the DB's lives so much easier. So I am expecting an uptick in sacks. I am expecting an uptick in turnovers. The yards, they'll be there. We're gonna be sitting in our chairs watching the game, stressing because they are making completions and driving it down the field. But when it comes down to it, this defense will be able to hold their opponents to field goals or hold them on fourth down, whatever the situation may be.
Yeah, and another reminder, a lot of people also bring up, Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell leaving free agency. That's 13 sacks between both guys. Yeah, just in 2022, Matt Judon put up 12 and a half sacks, and he was just one guy. Just almost same as an equivalent to two guys that had just left. So I really feel like the defense is in a better situation or a better spot this year. You mentioned bend but don't break. That could be the case for now, but what's going to be exciting is in that week 6, 7, 8 when these guys start gelling and really start getting the feel, and communication is a whole lot better. That this team could elevate from last year's some of last year's stats. The one thing that I look for too is the Falcons were tops in that third down defense and red zone defense, finishing fourth and third respectfully. Fourth in third down defense or third in red zone, one of the two. I might have the numbers flipped. So that's where I'm interested to see how these Falcons with these new added players can dial up some more exotic looks and blends and stuff like that. You mentioned the penny fronts and what potentially Richie Grant can offer, right? He's a sour name within the Falcons fan base, but I think that you keep the game in front of Richie. I think it pays major dividends. It's when you put him on an island and you ask for him to cover is when it's, it goes to shit. So I think that the coaching staff has realized that he does have 3 or 4 years worth of tape, and it has shown that he's better attacking the ball than he is just, trying to cover ground. So hopefully in those penny fronts, those three safety looks, he can make a world of a difference. I love the fact how you mentioned, right? That the safety spot all of a sudden now in Atlanta is interchangeable. Either one of those guys can play either one of the positions. And we spoke about this. I prefer Jesse being the strong safety. He's the more physical out of the two. 146 tackles last year, was the leader in tackles for the Falcons last year. I would want him in that role and just leave Justin as that natural eraser, as the deep safety or as the the roaming safety, whichever way you want to put it. But something that you can't take from both gentlemen, that's safety number one and number two in terms since of safety since 2016 with the most takeaways. Justin Simmons coming in with 30, Jesse coming in with 20. Man, it's a no fly zone, so to say, man. We just need AJ, who signed the much needed contract extension just a few weeks ago, to really uptick those interceptions. AJ hasn't had a clear interception. I don't believe in 2 years. I think 2021 was or 2022 was his last year where he had I think 3 interceptions. Didn't record one last year. So yeah, we need some production in that aspect, man. Shout out Shaka Zula in the chat. Appreciate you joining the stream, brother, man. Hope all is well with you, man. So yeah, man. So it's an exciting time for this defense. Like I mentioned, I feel like it's in a little bit better hands, especially with Coach Raheem, standing in behind the scenes and really looking at the defense overall. Also, Jerry Gray, a holdover from last year as well. That plays major dividends. He has some guys that he's accustomed to in coaching, and we will see. We will definitely see what's to come of it, man. Let's talk a little bit about cornerback number two, man. That spot number two. Mike Hughes is a name that's been dragged, by this Falcon fan base. I was one to do so. I'm sure most like others, but he's played very inspired ball. And I feel like I don't know if he's the clear cut number two. I think they're giving him the veteran due diligence of trying to earn that spot and keep that spot. But I think that we all know that it's Clark Phillips' jobs to lose, man. This kid has been a ball hawk in training camp from the videos that a lot of the guys like Will McFadden, Bryce Lewis, Joe Patrick have posted being there on the daily in training camp. And the kid he gets after it, man. He gets after it. 5'9" in stature, but so big at heart, and he plays above his stature, man. So I'm really happy that we have Clark Phillips, and I feel like he could be a key contributor in the secondary. What are your thoughts, right quick, on the whole Mike Hughes and Clark Phillips situation?
So, kind of to your point, I think Mike Hughes is getting the veteran treatment. He is a big question mark for me. I am not bought in, to be honest with you. But I think, again, just like Jimmy Lake, I think he is being set up for success in the front, in the defensive scheme. It's key in on this, and this is what you need to do. The only thing with him is he doesn't have that elite talent, right? That ball hawking talent. But that's fine. If play your coverage, make the tackle, deflect it, whatever, get in the way, don't let the quarterback get to the ball. But as far as Clark Phillip goes, watching tape on him last year, it seemed like he struggled under Ryan Nielsen's defense because Ryan Nielsen played a lot of man coverage. And being an undersized corner in the NFL, I mean, it was rough. We saw him get picked on that last game of the season.
Yeah.
That was tough to watch. And some of it was bad luck, right? Another year under his belt, maybe 6 games this year. And if Mike Hughes is struggling, I think the coaching staff will be confident in putting in Phillips out there. I'm rooting for the kid. He has that ball hawk, that first round ball. If he was 6 foot or 6'1", this kid would have been a first round talent. The only thing that held him back into the 4th round was his size. So he has that ball hawk ability. I would not be surprised if even before the bye, he is CB2 if Mike Hughes just can't get it done.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Anthony White, what's going on, brother? All is good over here, man. Hope the same for you, brother. Thank you for joining the stream this evening, man. Yeah, man. So it kind of feels like we jumped on the defense because I think that's the concern. How is this defense going? How is this defense going to do? And I think a lot of it should have been put to rest on back-to-back days of these phenomenal signings. And sure, there's probably no no guarantee that they'll come in and shine in just year one. But I think these guys being veterans and being productive already in the league for as long as they have can overshadow that and be productive from day one. We'll touch real quick on the offense. Concerns of any you feel with the offense? You feel like this is an offense that can get on the ground and start running from day one, or is this going to be a slow start to this offense, especially with first year coordinator Zach Robinson?
I think we're going to hit the ground running. Honestly, we have the talent. The best
Hmm.
thing that we could have done for Kirk Cousins is have a 5-man offensive line that has played together at least a year. They have
Cohesive unit.
cohesiveness. They
Yes,
have
sir.
the tendencies. They know how to talk to each other. And
Hmm.
last year, they were one of the top units. They did
Yes.
struggle at times, like any other team would, but they're going to take another step forward. I am beating the drum that we need to get Drew Dahlman. Just go ahead and sign him. Go ahead and sign him.
Man,
I know
dude, you
people
stole that from me.
I know people love to hate on him, but
Yep.
year in and year out this dude has improved and he
Hmm.
will continue to improve. And why do we have to go draft or sign someone that's going to cost more and
Yeah.
then mess up everything? Kirk will have then a year of receiving snaps from him. Again, why do you want to mess this up? Center is one of the key positions on the offensive line. Besides all of them are important, but center is one
Sure.
of them. Drake
Yeah.
London is going to burst onto the scene, and I'm so freaking ready because I'm tired of people slandering this kid's name. He
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
stud. He's going to
Yeah.
break onto the scene. Darnell Mooney, we're going to see that 1,000-yard receiver, close to 1,000 yards. I don't really think we're going to see a lot from Ray as far as production wise, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
He's going to do his part. Kyle
Hmm.
Pitts is going to really be that third outlet. Kirk loves his tight ends. Kirk loves his tight ends over the middle, up the sideline.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. And Kirk loves them. And it's cool to see the videos. You mentioned that on the defensive
Yeah.
side. You see Pitts receiving the ball in
Hmm.
stride. He
Yes, you
doesn't have
do.
to slow down. He has to
Nope.
use his hands, which has been a complaint from the coaches that we've heard, rumblings
Hmm.
inside the building. And Kirk, like Matt, gets onto him and pushes him to be better. And we know
Hmm.
the running back situation. There's not really the third running back. Yeah, if we're up maybe 20 or 30, yeah, get in there. Let the 1 and 2 Lightning and Thunder get some rest. But
Hmm.
Bijan, we know what he can do. We know what
Hmm.
he's going to do. Watching the Rams offense and how I was watching Royce Freeman and Darnell Henderson burst
Hmm.
10-plus-yard runs on a consistent basis. You put an elite runner like Bijan and a runner like Tyler Algier, that's a one cut up the field type of guy. Dude, I'm excited. I'm
It's gonna,
excited.
yeah, I'm excited too. And touching on the Drew Dahlman situation, I think this offensive scheme now benefits him because he's a guy that can get to the second level with ease. He's that nimble and he's that quick on his feet that he can have success in that. Of course, when the stretch calls, for that to happen. I see another kid taking another leap forward, and that's Matthew Bergeron, another guy that's moves well in space. And we just accumulating some road graders, on this offensive line, and it's going to be great for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins he predominantly played in some trash offensive lines. I mean, in one year, Pat O'Neill was their first round pick for the Vikings, and Jesus, there was another young man too. God, Darren Darrishaw, I think it is.
Darrishaw's actually not bad.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not
not
bad.
bad. He's not bad. He's rounding out now, but it wasn't the case, in his
Right.
early years, for Kirk and company. But I feel like yes, Drew Doman's a guy that should be in line for the next contract. But you also got to take into consideration Ryan Uziel has been a mainstay as a backup, and I think it's a kid that can come in a pinch and serve, be serviceable at best. And who knows, with more time in this new scheme, we could see the very best of Ryan Uziel if ever called upon. The Ray McLeod situation, sure, that's I'll start from that position and work my way out, like you were talking. But Ray McLeod, man, what can we say? Really, there's really not too much we can say. He was seldom used with the 49ers, was more of a gadget player. I think that's the role that he goes into. I think he takes that what would have been Rondale Moore situation as that gadget player, maybe just that guy that they just sent deep, and it allows and opens up everybody because he has true speed that you have to account for, and that's something this Falcons team has lacked in several years, with some true speed in the outside on the perimeter, or even in the slot. So you get a guy like him with respectable speed, you could start feeding guys like Darnell and Drake and Kyle Pitts. That I call him the Florida Gator Kyle Pitts because he's been moving like that in training camp. Just flea-footed, soft on his feet, light on the hands. Everything looks good, and I'm glad to see him. It looks like he's healthy from those knee ailments that were hindering him last year. So really, there's kind of no excuse for Kyle Pitts not to produce this year. If there's one player that we could say is under the most pressure in 2024, could be that man right there, Kyle Pitts. So, but with a consistent, accurate quarterback hitting him in stride, yeah, I think those problems are going to be of the past, and we're going to hopefully see the best version of Kyle Pitts, or the Kyle Pitts we all wanted with that fourth pick back in 2021, man. So I'm excited about that, man. So we switch dials now, man, because so much has been spoken about this Falcons team and what their prediction will be at year's end. ESPN just had a ridiculous article out, and they put us at over 9.5 wins. Brother, there is more than just to read after page one. You got to go a little bit deeper into it and see that throughout the NFL, no other team had really a better offseason than these Atlanta Falcons, right? You're in the division where everybody's kind of trying to find their so-called identity now. You look at Tampa Bay. I'm a firm believer that Dave Canales is that quarterback whisperer and is going to make a world of a difference. Him leaving for Carolina, I feel like Baker could struggle in year one under Liam. I think it's Liam Cohen, who is their OC over there, who brings a similar element from the Rams to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. I really feel like they take a step backwards. Derek Carr, we already hear the Spencer Rattler name being echoed in Aints land. So that going into the season is a distraction. I don't ever want to hear a fan say that it's not a distraction. It 100% is. That's probably going to lead to some implosion within with Derek Carr and Dennis Allen at each other's necks and just the play not being amicable enough. And we see Spencer Rattler probably starting midway through the season. That would probably mean Dennis Allen gets fired at some point for these Saints. And then, of course, Carolina, Dave Canales, Bryce Young. I'm no Panthers fan, but I am a fan of football. I'm excited to see what they can do, because Dave Canales has really etched his name in the quarterback world. He's responsible for really turning Geno Smith's career around. You've seen what he's done with Baker. It's possible that he can have those same things with Bryce Young. An upstart offense, not so talented defense, because of course, with so many departures on that end for Carolina. But this is the Falcons division to be had. I put my Falcons as a floor, 10 wins, ceiling, 12. But I'm leaning more towards the 12 for a lot of reasons mentioned, man. This is a talented team. This is a team that has been in obscurity for 7 years now. We haven't tasted any sort of success. The time is now, and the pieces are here. The coaching's in place. It's time to roll, man. So, what do you feel as though how do the Falcons stack up in the NFC South, and what's your prediction for our 30 Birds in 2024?
So I mentioned it to you. ESPN and national media just have a hard on of just pooping on the Falcons. And to an extent, they're a little warranted because of the lack of success, like you said, the past 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot ignore the improvements. This team, how many wins did we win last year?
7.
Who was our quarterback last year?
Oh my God. Taylor Ritter. To better say it.
A combination of the two.
A combination, right.
A combination of the two. You had an offensive coordinator / head coach that was stuck in the early 2010s, 2000s, which I was all about establishing the run. But now you get a winning quarterback. You add to the defense. It's just because, look, everyone has their own narrative, right? Everyone has their own narrative. And we've seen it on Twitter. These big dogs in the media hate being wrong. And when that Belichick thing didn't happen, like they all said it was going to happen,
they
were all pissed. They were all pissed, so they had it out for us. And then we drafted Michael Penix, and we didn't do what everyone said. Oh, they were even more mad. So that's fine. I like it. Just keep sleeping on us. Keep sleeping on us. Okay, that's fine. The Falcons, just like you said, my floor is 10. My ceiling is actually 13, but I think realistically it's going to be 12 because I think we're going to have some hiccups here and there on teams that we should be, but then for whatever reason, we just have bad games, which good teams have bad games sometimes.
Sure.
Now, looking at the rest of the division, I'm going to start on the back end. The Panthers. I think Dave Canales is a great offensive mind, brings out the best of his quarterbacks. Their roster, to me, everyone's bolstering about who they added. I think their roster is still one of the weakest in the NFL.
Yeah,
I think it is. I think you'll see improvements, but I don't think there's any type of contention. I have them only winning 3 games this next year. So they'll actually have a first round pick coming in, I think, right? They should have a first rounder.
They should. Yeah.
So they should be able to add a highly talented prospect coming out and then elevate even more their roster. So I think it'll be another year or 2 before we actually have to worry about the Panthers. The New Orleans Saints, right? Quarterback controversy. I called it when they signed Derek Carr, waste of money. When they hired Dennis Allen, it's the best thing that could have happened for us because they are garbage. They are wasting, and they do have an elite defense. I hate saying it, but they have some playmakers. Dennis Allen is a great defensive coordinator. Doesn't matter how good of a defense you have. Ask the New England Patriots last year. If your quarterback and offense can't score, you can hold your opponent to 14. But if you can't score more than that, you're not winning games. I have them winning no more than 5 next year.
Wow.
3rd place. 5 wins. And then Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield. I am an avid Baker Mayfield hater from the days he was at Texas Tech and he lost his job. He lost his job to Patrick Mahomes. He ran away from the challenge. So from then it left me a sour taste. He had success in Oklahoma. You can't take that away.
Right.
But in the NFL, he is probably the most overrated quarterback that people talk about and hold on this pedestal. What has he done? Oh, he brought the Cleveland Browns. Quarterback has a piece to it, but it's a team effort, right?
Absolutely.
He will take a step back. He will be the Baker Mayfield that I know, and people are going to be like, oh, what happened? But it's a team game. Todd Bowles will have that defense playing well. 9 wins for the Buccaneers. And 2nd place, maybe a wild card. We'll see how the rest of the NFC shapes up. That's
very good. No, man, shit, I love it, man. I love it. And and it's a slap in the face also to give the Falcons 9.5 wins, right? Like we just spoke about it so much. All the additions and all of that. Last year, and we were talking before we went on air about this, man. The Falcons last year 7-10 with a Band-Aid at the quarterback position, and better quarterback play last year or consistent quarterback play last year. This was easily a 11 or 12 win Falcons team in a playoff hosting Falcons team, man. How many 5 games that we lost under a touchdown or less, or maybe 3 points or less at that. You fast forward to now, those games we know now are achievable, that we will win because we have rectified the problem, which is the quarterback position, the most important position, the most ridiculed position, as you alluded to earlier on the field. So I don't see no struggles really for the Falcons in close games. I think there's a brain trust that is savvy enough to navigate through certain things. Kirk is a fiery guy. So I feel like if there's a call when the game's on the line that he doesn't like, this mother is going to audible or call a timeout to get the best play, set again. So that's what I'm basing it on for so much success with the Falcons in 2024, man. Now, as you say 13, possibly 12, more realistic 12. I'm at 12. How do we stack up in the NFC conference, right? We look at other divisions, the West, the East, of course, the South, the North. What do you feel? I feel like the Falcons could be an easy 3rd or 4th seed, really.
Easy.
The big dogs is probably going to be Frisco at 1. But even at that, who knows, man? We don't year in and year out, we don't know. So we always got to base a guess or an assumption based on what they have done. they've been the cream of the crop in the NFC conference for the better part of 2 or 3 years. Got to give number one to them. Can we argue and say Philly might be number two? There's a possibility that they could come in at number two, but what I look at is that QB head coach relationship, and that QB head coach relationship is not 100 in Philly. As Sirianni and Hurts do not see eye to eye. There's a lot of reports out there that they're not getting along or they haven't gotten along, and that itself right there could topple a franchise or topple a season. Period. We don't know, but we'll give it to them by default. Then you go into three. Who's really the third best team in the NFC? Some people will say Dallas, but I don't know. This is a different Dallas team this year. And I say that because I'm interested to see what this damn defense is going to look like without Dan Quinn. It's not just he leaves the blueprint and you can follow that for success the next year. You got to remember, new guys that come in like to bring their own style, their own verbiage, their own tweaks and tendencies, and it may not fall in line with the guys that they have now. So Dallas is not a lock as a third seed in the NFC. The Rams possibly. I don't know. Do you see who else would you put in that category, or is it going Falcons? What do you feel?
So I don't know why, but I have just something in my stomach that says we could see the Niners struggle a little bit and not be the top seed. I'm feeling very confident for the Philadelphia Eagles and what they added coaching wise. I mean, they added Kellen Moore, loves to establish a run, loves play action pass. You saw the success with Dak Prescott with the Cowboys. And then you add Vic Fangio on that struggling defense that he is known to elevate. And he wasn't really liked in Miami because everyone, I guess they like that Miami lifestyle. But Philly is a town that they're used to winning, and their fans will be at your throat if you're not winning. 100%. So I think Sirianni kind of ate a piece of humble pie last season, thinking they had a cakewalk. They could fight for that number one seed with the Niners, but I think you're right. They are still the 1 and 2. They are the 1 and 2. The 3, it just goes off of seeding. Are the Falcons truly the third best team? Record wise, we may end up with the 3rd seed, which I think would play well to us. I think Green Bay gives Detroit a run for the money, man.
I think so too.
I don't think Detroit has a cakewalk in that. Do I think they win the division? I think they do, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers win it and land either the 3rd or 4th seed. So it's going to come down to that because we don't play either of them this year, so there's no tie break for us between the two teams.
The two teams, right.
Now, wild card teams after that for the NFC, I don't see Dallas. I am not confident at all in Dallas's team. Offensively, I think they'll be able to still put up points because you still have CD and Dak. Their running back room, though, is god awful. Awful. The skeleton of Zeke Elliott, Dalvin Cook in there. I think they finished 3rd in their division, and I actually have the Commanders as a wild card team. I think Dan Quinn is
really.
Yes, dude. I loved what they. A lot of people didn't love what they did.
Oh man, Cliff Kingsbury's over there though, right?
Everybody loves to hate on Cliff, but when he's in, just like I talked about, some head coaches are better as OCs or DCs.
Correct.
He's one of those guys. They got freaking Jaden Daniels, man. His style of quarterback. He's got a. Oops, Siri talking in the background.
Siri has something to say. Come on now.
Jaden Daniels may not have as strong as arm as Mahomes, but he plays at a similar style, and he's got better legs than Mahomes, where Kingsbury had that air raid offense. I feel really confident about the Commanders finishing 2nd in their division and a wild card. Buccaneers could be a wild card, like I had mentioned. The loser of the North, whether it be the Packers or the Lions, could be a division. As far as who else, the West, man, I really don't feel good about the Rams. I don't feel good about the Rams. Offensively, I think they can still do something. Their defense, I think, is going to tank.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals, I think the Cardinals will be better, but they won't be a playoff team. And the Seahawks, a lot of people love to rave about the Seahawks. I think they have a good wide receiver room. I think their offensive line is garbage. I think
like
Geno
always,
Smith. I think Geno Smith will do well.
Yeah. What about
And
their defense, man? Because they've added a lot of good pieces on that defense, man. Uh,
so I really was surprised when Mike McDonald didn't land any of his Ravens that hit the market. I was
mhm.
really surprised. Patrick Queen, Geno Stone, I
Yeah.
had linked to them. They had the money, they had the capital to spend, but they
Mhm.
didn't. And then they let one of their linebackers, Aaron Brooks, shout out Reckham Tech, walk, and now he's a Dolphin. He got paid by the Dolphins. So
Oh,
I think their defensive line, their front is
oh,
well. They've got two stout corners and Reek Woolen and what's his name, Witherspoon, that they
Witherspoon. Yep.
drafted last year, but I'm not confident in their safeties at all.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
thought I honestly thought when Justin Simmons was still in the market, I was like, oh, the Seahawks are all over that. He needs someone that he's familiar with in the AFC and knows he can have that confidence in the back end.
True.
And I don't know, man. I just don't feel good about the Seahawks because of their defense. I think they'll spend the year. Mike McDonald will implement his defense, and then he'll get guys that can play it or keep these guys that work out, and then they'll be a force the following year. So, what do I got? I got Eagles,
Mhm.
Niners,
Mhm.
Falcons, Lions, Packers,
Mhm.
Commanders, and then I guess I'll give it to the Bucks
The
on the wild
Bucks.
card team.
Solid. Solid, man. There you have it. That is solid, man. Shout out my guy Jay Diaz in the chat, man. What's good? All is good over here, man. Hope all is good well with you as well, brother. Yeah, man. And to the Lions, right? One thing I struggle with the Lions is first year coordinator Ben Johnson was hot, absolutely hot. You know what I mean? The offense was innovative. It looked good, but defenses really, or coaches really didn't have any tendencies to really prepare for beforehand. Like he's not a coach that had put out, years worth of film out on the field to just study the tendencies. I want to see year two. What does he do to reinvigorate himself or just reintroduce himself, I guess, because you got a year worth of tape now, offensive tape, where teams can study now how you like to feature Amon-Ra St. Brown and other playmakers. Sam Laporta, as we all saw, took the league by storm last year. Can he duplicate that in year two? Same could be said for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he had a fantastic year for a wide receiver last year. So I can see the Lions probably taking a step back or two. Who knows? Maybe end up as that fifth seed, and somebody else may come in and surprise everybody to obtain that fourth seed. I don't know, but for me, I'm a big believer in how good are you in year two. It's the verdict is still out for Ben Johnson, so that's my thought on that. But this has been excellent, man. I really appreciate everybody coming through. Shout out my guy Debo Vibes, man. Yeah, no doubt, brother. We are here, man. We are trying our best to give our best analysis and breakdowns on this NFC conference, this NFC South, and recapping this 2024 campaign that's been so early in the stages for these Atlanta Falcons, but it's been a successful one, ladies and gentlemen. Falcons have had a great offseason, but I felt like we needed to talk and highlight that a little bit more, man. I think so many things are lost in the shuffle. The moves, of course, that we were made. Too many people are stuck in the now and what's coming about. Let's just dive into what transpired for us this year and led us to make these moves that we have made in 2024. But this is going to do it for this show tonight, man. We appreciate everybody coming through the 95 North Falcons talk show, man. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the socials right here, man. If you can, please, please, please subscribe to the 95 North Falcons talk show. There it is on YouTube. You can follow me on X on the RI Falcons, on Bleacher Report at 95 North Berto, and on Instagram, Berto 95 North. But I'll let Kev please let the folks know where they can find you and any up and coming projects that you'll be working on for these folks to follow.
So the biggest spot you guys can find me on is TikTok, Dirty Bird Central. That's where I really got my feet going. Post daily content there, not just Falcons, but NFL in general. If you're curious on what's going on in the NFL, I like to give my 2 cents and analysis on what's going on. Twitter, it's actually at BK squared, but the name is Bro Talk. I kind of, I don't know what to say. I just thank you to everyone that follows, because this time last year I had under 100 followers, and now we're on the scene. Like, you guys see me all the time, and it's crazy to me still. So I'm very thankful to be where I'm at. So you guys can follow me there. I have daily thoughts on what's going on. Again, mainly Falcons on Twitter, but also touch on the NFL as a whole. And now the YouTube channel. Now that I'm a part of the 95 North Falcons talk show, you can find me there, Dirty Bird Central. If you guys subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. We got that going. And as far as projects going, I will be a part of this show now every Wednesday as we preview the shows, or preview the games. I'm sorry. And
Yep.
then also I will be live reacting live on YouTube and Twitter as the game goes on. So you guys can catch me there. Get some actually live reactions, good and bad. So I'll try and keep it as cordial as possible, because sometimes my emotions get the best of me.
You gotta let it rip, man. There's nothing like authentic content, man. And definitely, man, whatever the mood strikes and whatever you gotta let out, just let it out, man. Chrissy Lewis, thank you so very much. Appreciate the kind words, man. Man, we tried our very best, and we hope we delivered. Thank you for supporting the 95 North Falcons Talk Show. That's the platform on YouTube. You can find me tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. time on Bleacher Report. The title will be similar to what we got going on tonight, but it's mainly all about the predictions and what I have certain players finishing in for 2024. That's on Bleacher Report tomorrow at 3. Hope to see everybody there. Again, I'm your boy Berto, your host of the 95 North Falcons Talk Show on YouTube. If that's your first time to the platform, if this is your first time to the platform, please hit that subscribe button and share it. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Please continue to support all the Atlanta Falcons content creators out there. A lot of them are currently live now, so shout out to them all. Until then, we will see you Wednesday night as the four of us, myself, Smitty, Berto, Chris, debut all together on the screen for the first time, previewing the Week 1 matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, folks. I did not stutter. Week 1 is here. Until then, peace.